folks. So this is a in response video to Ryan Embree from Doom Machine. Of course, as you guys know, I am Trevor, the bass player and vocalist of Beyond Eternal. The questions that Ryan had asked us through the band's page, because Roy made a post, and this whole COVID thing has got people on kind of edge on kookiness, as it were, and yeah, I trimmed the goatee quite hard. Gonna revisit the beard thing again. Now, Ryan posted some questions, and the questions were favorite local business, which we use C standard as well as E flat. So C standard is C, F, A sharp, D sharp. And he also asked probably one of the hardest questions that I think I've ever had to answer, and that's top 10 albums of the 2000s. So, first one, we're going to go with favorite local business. I started doing this video last night, but I was so tired, and the one beer I had was just not helping me at all, and I just said, screw it. So here I am with a cup of coffee from McDonald's. No, that's not my favorite local business. My favorite local business is the Gahan House, which is a restaurant and pub. Restaurant, bar, brewery kind of thing. And normally, they originated out of PEI, and so I love them because A, the restaurant is great, the beer is fantastic, and the service is usually pretty damn good every time we go. Now, I've got other local favorites that are in different cities, so I guess if we want to get local to here, to St. John, then yes, that's who I would choose, is the Gahan House. What inspired the C standard? Just wanting to get heavier. And I know people have always asked, what tuning is going to make you heavier? Like, and a lot of people are like, oh man, you can get some really heavy tones if you use the right chords or the right note choices in E standard or E flat or D or drop D. And that's all well and good, but I mean, Roy put his thoughts about it, so I want to put mine out. A lot of mine has to do with a lot of the bands I was listening to at the time, like Gojira, Killer Be Killed, Mudvayne. Now, I think Mudvayne goes slightly lower, but in and around that kind of thing, and the different tones that you can get with certain songs that you write. On the very first record, we don't have any songs that are tuned to C. We have one that's in drop D, and that's literally the only song. And on this new record, I think about half or just under half of our songs are in C tuning. So it's quite a departure from, the first record. And even song-wise, just the maturity, or the maturation. It's immense. Like, I'm not like, I think I have like one or two songs where I sing that are like kind of, I wouldn't say gore, but there's definitely some death references in there. Some justice things and so on and so forth. But I think on the next record, I'm going to open up and I want to try and do even more. I want to expand more on the next record. What I would like to, that is. That's going to depend on the other three. So that's pretty much the main thing. And some of the bands that are in, and actually one of the bands in the list, I'll kind of get into more detail with the C part. Now, top albums of 2000. This was an absolute bitch, because I had to go back through basically 20 years of what I was listening to in terms of music. Now, that having been said, you've got like so many records. Now, you're probably thinking, why in the hell do you have those 10? You could have so many more, and so many crazier and more psychotic bands. I could, but these 10 were the ones that I listened to the most and that affected me the most on whatever level. And this is not to say that any other record that is out there in the 2000s was bad in terms of metal. This is what stuck with me for whatever reason. The 2000s were a hard pile of years on me, let me tell you. That's when I got into my 20s. Like in, 2001, I turned, that was my, like, that was in my 20s. Um, like, man, I put some hard miles on from 99 to 2000 and now. I did, but I went through the passing of my father, so a lot of these records really, really, really stick home with me for the most part. So, no particular order. I'm saving the best is my personal one of my personal favorites for last, and I've been listening to this on a constant basis as of late too. I go with my semi-ons again. Guess that's what happens when you've been up quite early today. Anyways, excuse me. Um, In Flames, Come Clarity, the record that introduced me to In Flames and Swedish death metal as a whole. Because I was like, what do these guys play? Like, they don't play the metal that I normally check out. And then I went and looked and said Swedish death on the first couple records. And some mellow death. So then I went and looked up some of that stuff, and I was like, okay, all right. And then, of course, I found out about Entombed and At the Gates and so on and so forth. Now, when you look at, like, other records on this list, In Flames is a completely different band from the rest of them. They know the melodicism is there, the riffs are definitely there, and the vocals are just insanely powerful, really, really powerful. Anders and Bjorn are probably two of my favorite people that I look up to in terms of the metal scene. Um, Slayer, Repentless is the next record. I'm not talking about Slayer. You know about Slayer. You know about Repentless. Key tracks: Atrocity Vendor, Repentless itself, the title track, You Against You, and When the Stillness Comes. I shouldn't have to go too deep into that. And you guys are probably wondering why I didn't go to a different Slayer record. I could have went God Hates Us All, but there's some songs on there that kind of really don't make me as happy, which is why I didn't choose that record. Rammstein, Rise, Rise. Now, the tracks that stand out for me on this one are really, really potent. America, which is not a love song about America, which a lot of Americans think it is, and I just start laughing. The title track, of course. Los, which is a acoustic song, but it's got enough upbeatness. It's upbeat enough to the point where you just like, just kind of bob your head a little bit. Till's vocal is beautifully delivered, and it's deep, but it's got enough of a good solid tone underneath it to help it kick ass. And Mind Tile, or My Part, it's just the ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. It almost has like a Korn thing, but not to the detriment of the low sevens, like the low B string. But Mind Tile is a beautiful, beautiful track. Pantera, Reinventing the Steel. That's pretty fucking self-explanatory, right? I mean, I shouldn't have to get too deep into that now, do I? Black Label Society, The Blessed Hell Ride. What a hammer of a record. Just from the very first track right through to the end, and everything in between is just unbelievably heavy, unbelievably awesome. Next up, Creator, Phantom, Antichrist. Now, I've heard Pleasure to Kill, and I've heard Out of the Dark. I've also heard, Como Souls, and of course, like the one track that I really liked was, oh Lord, Enemy of God, and that was a fantastic. That record was great too. But Phantom Antichrist kind of upped the whole tech thrash. Like, it's very thrashy, but there's enough technical bits in there just to make it sound extra kick-ass. And I think this is, personally, I think this is one of Millie's greatest vocal, performances as far as I'm concerned. Iron Maiden, The Wicker Man. This was actually the very first record that I owned by these guys, and the very first time that I really got into Maiden, and it was in '99. And that whole time frame, because that's actually when I saw them live at Harbor Station on the Ed Hunter tour, and they were just coming out with this, and they had got Bruce back and Adrian back, and I really, really enjoyed this record immensely because it, as I say, it was really the very first Iron Maiden record that I had gotten, and I really, I just have so much love for that record. It's just fucking amazing and just perfect and just fantastic altogether. Gojira, L'Enfant Sauvage. Roy picked this one here. This one here is probably, this is where they kind of get, like, a lot of the death metal is still there in terms of tone, in terms of heaviness, but they've scaled back in terms of, like, technicality. Like, it's not as crazy as, like, say, The Way of All Flesh, or Terra Incognito. It's just a beauty of a record. L'Enfant Sauvage is, and the title track is probably one of my favorite Gojira songs, next to Silvera and Shooting Star. Shooting Star is just a beauty of a track altogether. Mudvayne, The End of All Things to Come. I was really into Mudvayne when they first come out. Just a killer band, and of course everybody knows that burr-burr-ting, burr-burr-ting, burr-burr-ting. Like, you can actually go online and there's like a video that's got go just burr-burr-ting for like 10 hours. You gotta be one hell of a you gotta have one hell of a personality, or you gotta be some fucking extra sort of weird to put up with that for 10 hours. But no, like, The End of All Things to Come, I mean, like, Not Falling, World So Cold, and Mercy Severity. Just, like, three of my favorite Mudvayne tracks. Just undeniably heavy and just a crushing record. And last but not least, the one band that, like I said, I've been listening to, like, since I started doing this yesterday. I was just on YouTube and I just put in playlist of, metal 2000s, and this was like one of the songs that come up, and I'm like, or not that Wings of Feather and Wax was one of the first ones to come up, and I was like, holy shit, The Boys. It's like, because I haven't listened to them, right? I'm like, what? Like, why have I not had this? And I've had the CD. I had the CD in the Tucson for quite a while. I'm gonna have to go back and sniff through some of these here, find it and put it back in there because I miss it, because it's such a great record. The first 5 or 6 songs are really the ones that really nailed it for me, and that was obviously the Wings of a Feather and Wax, Face Down, Melting My Marrow, Curb Crusher, and Snakes of Jehovah. Those were the songs that really, really, really kicked my ass in terms of, and really realized I can get with this whole C standard stuff or the C tuning and just let's do some different stuff. Like, I would on the next record, if we can't get John to do some vocals, I would like to get a song or a couple tunes where there's like me, Roy, and say Denny singing on the actual tracks, or on a track here or there, just to change it up a little bit, just to have a little bit of fun with it, and just prove that we're not one of these bands where either every song that I sing is fast or just Slayer-esque all the time. I don't want that. I want to, like, I'm going to be improving on my vocals over the next little bit too. Not a song where it's just all Roy, and every song that Roy writes is like, fucking power metal-y or Annihilator-ish, because we've all got these influences that are just everywhere. And I'd like to be able to try some different shit on the next record, but I think the second record, I think you guys are going to love it. Anyways, guys, thank you so very much for checking this out. This is my part. My video. Basically, Roy did his records, my records. I don't know if the other two are going to do it or not.